Hey everyone. I just wanted to hop on and create a little video, being able to show you kind of an exemplar of an IRB. So I'm going to show you my dissertation IRB. If it's helpful to you, I could definitely transfer some of that information on Marymount's IRB form so that you could kind of see how to format it and what it looks like. But I did want to do this because in your ideation corner, you had to talk about some of these components within the IRB. And I wanted to show you how detailed oriented you have to be when you're completing this process. And the reason why I really want to emphasize that with you is that if it's not detailed and if it's not to the point where the IRB office is going to be able to follow exactly what you're doing, it's going to become a back and forth. And different IRBs offices, their timing is a little bit different. So I don't know how quickly Marymount turns over IRBs. But I don't want you to have to go back and forth with the IRB office because it takes time and you can't do anything in terms of your dissertation and practice without your IRB getting approved. So that's why I really want to emphasize some of these components. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to split my screen just so that I can have some of these directions from the ideation corner opened. So as it states here, it's going within your post instructions, you talk about your initial plans within the application. So whether or not you believe that your research will be qualified as research or not. So if you think that you're going to collect any type of data from, a group of individuals within your study, I would strongly recommend that is an experiment that you would be conducting full IRB for. If you want to talk about this further with me to talk through what you're thinking, I'm happy to talk through that with you. So what I want to show you is within your post, you're going to talk about your initial thoughts on how you would select and recruit participants and collect data. What would be any potential risks? How would you minimize those? How would you maintain the privacy of research participants? So this is George Mason's IRB form. It looks a little bit different than Marymount's, but first what I want to point out is that you are not going to be considered the principal investigator. So the principal investigator would be a Marymount faculty member. So for me, for example, it was my chair. And your type of research, it would be for your doctoral dissertation. So you see within this IRB, you're first describing the specific purpose of your study. So you would literally just copy paste your purpose as well as the research questions. And in terms of recruitment, following my specific research design. So for my dissertation, it was a multiple case study design. And so in order to participate, my participants had to meet a set of very specific criteria. And so within my recruitment, I had alternative sampling procedures in case I wasn't going to be able to recruit enough participants. So I would strongly recommend that if you are doing a qualitative study or even components within mixed methods that you're sampling for qualitative, I would recommend that you have alternative sampling procedures in the event that you have difficulty recruiting the specific types of participants that you want. So again, you see that these recruitment procedures are outlined with the number of participants I have, so 3 to 5. And then these are the criteria that they have to meet. And then following following those types of procedures, I went in detail about what it was that I was going to do in terms of recruitment. So again, like you want to be very detail oriented in terms of exactly what it is that you're going to do. So for example, for this specific study, I am going to be obtaining a list of George Mason alumni from the Educational Leadership Department. Then I'm going to be filtering that document to find participants who meet my criteria. So I go through that specific criteria for each option. So again, you already see there's a lot of detail within this process. So again, after I outline that step, so when I identify these potential participants, I said that I was going to contact them via email using the recruitment slip for correspondence. And then if they're willing to participate, they will respond and communicate such. So they would fill out the informed consent. And then when you submit for IRB, you are actually also uploading these documents. So I would be uploading my email recruitment script. I would be uploading my informed consent form. So all of this stuff has to be ready. And I've told some of you that there's never, you're never gonna, like, it's not negative to start some of these forms now to kind of save yourself some time later. And then I go into specific data collection. So we talked a little bit about recruitment. And the next part is this data collection. So I talk about how long the data collection will last. And then I talk about each data source that I'm going to use and what that looks like. So I go into that in detail and how much time that each participant would be needed for that time. So following that information, I go into data analysis. So again, you want to provide an overview on what types of data analysis procedures that you're going to be using. You see also that I'm actually citing research within this. So again, it's very detail oriented. So in terms of like risks, so going down here, where it's talking about, are there enrollment prescriptions? No. Any relationships that could be problematic? No. So there's typically some questions about risk that I'll point out within this document. But typically, like, there's going to be minimal risks involved, you know, within types of research. Now, for example, if you are using vulnerable populations, you might have to go into a little bit more detailed. So you definitely want to specify, you know, what it is that you would be doing. And some of these procedures that you see on this form, you know, are kind of repetitive. So again, it talks about recruitment and consent again. So I'd have to explain my recruitment procedures. So there are aspects, at least for Masons, that are pretty repetitive. And then it talks about consent. So this is where the privacy and confidentiality comes in. So I did want to provide this information for you, since this is confidentiality and privacy. So different things to think about when I'm reviewing this. So when you are conducting research, it's imperative that you are thinking about the privacy and confidentiality of participants throughout the entire part of your study. So first and foremost, being able to be very clear on who is going to have access to your data. So in this example, I said only the research team, and I named the PI, the co-PI, and the student researcher. So for my dissertation, I had co-facilitators, so they had access to this information as long as my dissertation chair and myself. Also being able to specify where your data is going to be kept. So I specified that all data to this project will be kept and maintained in a OneDrive on Mason server that is password protected. So that is very specific, but it's you know, being very, very specific about all the steps that I'm taking to ensure confidentiality. Also, ways of protecting participants. I am going to be assigning a pseudonym for my participants in the study and stating that no identifying information regarding participants will be recorded. So no identifying information regarding participants, school, or school districts will be reported. So for example, for my case study, I pulled participants that had gone through one university-based program. I also had to give that university a pseudonym too. So again, you want to de-identify participants within your study. And then so typically with data, when you store it and you can say that it's going to be locked in an external hard drive on the PI's office. Findlay is a location on George Mason's campus for 5 years. So typically 5 years is the amount of time that you keep data protected. However, if you are doing like Zoom recordings, for example, you can actually say that you're going to delete those recordings after they've been transcribed. So I have that statement here. So following the transcription of the Zoom interviews and focus groups, the recordings will be deleted. And then again, like the IRB office might want you to include different statements. So for my IRB, this is a statement that they sent to me. And again, what individually identifiable information will be collected. So again, like I restated, you know, only these people would have access to participant identifiable information. So there was, you know, a document that I kept that had the actual participants identifying information, their pseudonym, and only those people that I identified had access to that information. So again, this talks about when it will be destroyed. And again, because I did virtual within data collection, everything was going to be destroyed after 6 months. It talks about where will the data be stored. We've talked about that. And then risks. So I mentioned that there was going to be a section about where this risks would be. So summarize the nature and amount of risk. So I stated within my study, there's no anticipated physical, psychological, social, or legal risk for participants in the study. So, you know, I said that to minimize any potential risk, that all participation in the study will be voluntary and the information would be kept confidential. Additionally, participants of the study may stop or skip questions when they would like, if they, you know, got uncomfortable, for example. So providing that space. Also, a way that you can minimize risk is participants could drop out of the study at any time, which is unfortunate, but you want to provide that as well. Additionally, for benefits of participating, you also want participants to understand what the benefits would be. So you could list some of the benefits. Again, too, for some dollar amount for participating, especially when it's something like a really in-depth qualitative study where you know it's going to take a lot of time. You want to see if you could get funding to get them something. So each of my participants got $150. So that's, you know, like a compensation for them to participate. So that is this George Mason's IRB. Again, like I'm happy to put this information on Marymount's and share it if that's helpful. But I think that we went through each one of these kind of components. So I hope that this was helpful to you. Please, 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 like again, I can't stress enough, if there's something more that I can help you with about your topic, or if you want to ask more questions about this IRB process, I'm happy to talk more about it. But I hope this was helpful.